Right, that is us live now.
Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to the November meeting of the Angus Licensing Board. Mrs. Anderson, are there any apologies for absence, please?
There's no apologies, convener.
Okay, thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? No, nobody's hands up. Okay, that's fine. Members, agenda item number...
Sorry, convener, I think Councillor Durno has a declaration.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Councillor Durno.
Sorry, I was just getting my papers up there. Yes, I'm doing a declaration on the Toll House Spirits. That's actually not in my ward, but I've had communication with them lately regarding Christmas, etc. So I'll just come out of the meeting when that item's being discussed, okay?
Okay, that's fine, thank you. No one else? No. Okay, members, agenda item number 3, we're asked to, it's been submitted for approval as a correct record, the minute of meeting of this board held on the 17th of September 2020. Do we agree these minutes?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Okay, the first item of business then is agenda item number 4, new premises licenses under the Licensing Scotland Act 2005. And the first one is Toll House Spirits, Matthew Kerr Place in Arbroath. Now, I'm not sure who's representing them.
Convener, this is Janet Hood that's representing this. Unfortunately, Janet...
I'm here.
Oh, she is
Oh,
right.
hello, good. Nice to see you again. Okay, Mrs. Hood, we've just called your application, so once you're ready, the screen is yours.
Convener, could we just give a minute to make sure that Councillor Durno is out and in the lobby?
Yeah.
Can IT confirm when that happens?
It looks like she's left herself. I can't seem to see her on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think she's gone. She's certainly not on my list of participants now, so she's away, I think. Okay, Mrs. Hood, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, convener, your honours. And I also want to thank your staff. I just had a hearing in Dundee immediately before you, and I had asked to go last because I wasn't sure when that would be finished. And I just, as always, Angus licensing staff are so helpful. But thank you for letting me take my first position because I managed to make it. Now, I'm really pleased to be here for Toll House Spirits Arbroath and my clients Fiona and John Walsh. They are an innovative couple who are making, well, what I can only describe because I do drink it, the most superb gins. They have an ancillary visitor shop and distribution point and tasting area, and they have been running this area now for nearly a year under occasional licenses within a self-contained facility for the production of craft gins, and there have been no issues that I am aware of with regard to any breach or failure of the licensing laws. The activities are that it will be a distribution point for domestic and trade sales. This is happening just now, an ancillary visitor centre, shop and tasting room. Alcohol can be bought directly from the visitor centre or the shop by people walking in, and it can be bought by persons taking part in on-site or virtual distillery visits and via online and telephone sales. The alcohol can be delivered from the site by the applicant and their staff and via post and normal dispatch companies. And you already have a copy of the delivery policy, which you have approved in the past. Alcohol can be collected from the site also by people who have made online purchases. The reason for films is that they are going to be showing a film showing the distillery, making of the spirits, blending of the botanicals, etc. will be shown at all times. There will be lessons in blending of botanicals, etc., which is part of the tasting regime. For the avoidance of doubt, free and paid for tastings will be the only form of, if one could describe it as, on-sale activity, and these are completely ancillary to the main use of the premises. It's normal in a distillery circumstance to permit tastings, and in these circumstances for people to learn about how botanicals, etc., are put together. John and Fiona are local to the area, and they're very involved in Appetite for Angus, with which I'm sure you're completely familiar. It's an organisation which is close to my heart. Fiona and John are founder members and created the initial website, which showcases producers, makers, retailers, and other food and drink and craft related activities in Angus. Their efforts are driving locals and others to shop and sample locally the wonderful food and drink products made in the area, and are helping putting Angus on the culinary map. Subject to any questions you may have, I move the grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hood. Any questions from members? Councillor Moore.
Thank you, convener. I've got a couple of questions. First one is that the description is for production of craft gins and other distilled, brewed or fermented alcohol products. And I'm just wondering what they might be.
Well, for instance, I think it is my client's intention to offer other products made in the area, such as the Lost Orchard, cider, etc. What's happening with Appetite for Angus is people are trying to work together to promote not only their own products, but other products which are made in the area by local craft and other people. And this is why that part of it is in there.
Very nice. And the core times that are being asked for are out with board policy. So the applicant is quite happy with taking it for tastings only outside core hours?
Absolutely. It's not turning it into a pub per se, but they're quite happy if somebody comes in and wants a tasting, say that trade person or something wants a tasting between 10 and 11, they'll just get a little sample. But other tastings are to take them through the botanicals and things, and that will not be happening except during core hours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Coleman, do you wish to make any comment?
Thank you, Mr. Convener. I have nothing I've not produced a report on this application. 10 to 11, it was an agreement that the applicant's agent and I reached in terms of the consumption out with core hours. That I do not foresee that being an issue for the board or any, as Ms. Hood quite rightly points out, it's not turning it into a drinking den. It is merely for tastings only, and I don't see an issue with that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's a nice way to put it. Comments,
Phew.
members? No comments? Okay, on the basis then we've got the descriptions of the application in front of us, and with the...
I think Councillor Boyd wants to speak.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm not seeing. Councillor Boyd?
Yes, sorry, I did. I was trying to press buttons on my iPad there. So thank you, Councillor Moore, for noticing I put my thumb up rather than my raising a hand. Yes, no, I think this, just want to make the comment, I think this is ideal, an ideal thing, increasing our tourism within Angus, and ideal when we have, I think I'm right in saying just down the road, we have the jam factory. Unfortunately, that jam factory moved from Carnoustie, unfortunately, many years ago, because they couldn't find a suitable business site in Carnoustie. But it still is known as Carnoustie Jam, even though it's made in Arbroath. But it's nice to see this other nice complement further up the road. I actually passed the big signs for it the other day and said, oh, I wonder what that was when I was going and getting some jams and chutneys further down the road. So I think this will work in really well. And wish them all the very best with this visitor centre, with the view of bringing more tourists into Angus, a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. Yes, I agree, and I do like the sound of the appetite for Angus that Mrs. Hood said. It's good to see businesses cooperating and working together, especially in the current climate that we're in just now. So, members, with the condition that is at the bottom of the report, the on sales between 10 and 11 AM only shall be for tasting sessions only. I'm going to move that we grant this application. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Mrs. Hood, success again.
Well, thank you very much, Convener, Your Honours. It's always a delight to be in front of the Angus board, my home board, and I will look forward to seeing you all again. I hope you have a super day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Okay, members, the next one on agenda item number 4 is the Arbickie Distillery Visitor Centre, Lunan Montrose.
Sorry, Convener, can we just check that Councillor Dunrow can come back into the meeting? I'm not sure if she's in the lobby or not.
No, she left herself and hasn't logged back into the meeting, so I can't admit her because she's not there.
Sarah, Could
Yes,
you chase it, Councillor Dunrow, please?
of course, no problem.
Convener, I think we'll just proceed and Sarah will contact Councillor Dunrow. The applicants for the Arbiki one are John Sterling and the agent Anne McEwen.
Okay, that's fine. Good morning, Ms McEwen. The meeting screen is yours now, if you want to speak to the application.
Good morning, convener, ladies and gentlemen. I appear with the applicant company Arbiki Distilling Limited, and as Mrs Anderson has explained, John Sterling, who is one of the company directors, is in the meeting with me as well. So I'm happy to speak to the application, and then Mr Sterling will equally be happy to speak to any operational issues or questions which board members may have. So this is an application for a provisional premises licence for the new Arbiki Distillery Visitor Centre, which is well advanced. I think they're hoping to be open by Christmas or thereabout, COVID restrictions permitting. It's a purpose-built visitor centre comprising on the ground floor a retail outlet selling alcohol produced at the distillery and related Arbiki branded merchandise, together with a cafe restaurant and a designated area for outside eating and drinking. On the second floor, a bar restaurant together with 3 private areas which can be used for private dining or tasting rooms, and there is also an adjacent outside balcony area. And then just finally to explain, there is a kitchen. The principal kitchen is going to be on the ground floor with a second finishing kitchen upstairs. Similar to the last application in terms of core hours, the commencement time for on sales is proposed to be 9 AM, which is obviously out with core hours, but similar with the last application, following discussions with the LSO, my clients are more than happy to agree a condition that on sales between 9 AM and 11 AM shall be for pre-booked tasting sessions only, which is the sole reason for making that application. The applicants would also seek to take advantage of seasonal variations which the board may approve from time to time. In terms of additional activities on the premises, just maybe a couple of points to make. Firstly, the applicants would wish to open from 9 AM daily for the service of teas, coffee, soft drinks and snacks for visitors. Tastings, these would be marketed at tourists principally, and would be carried out on the first floor of the premises in either the bar area or one of the private tasting rooms to which children and young persons will not be permitted access, and also in a cordoned off area on the ground floor. In relation to children and young persons, just one point to make, the applicant would seek a direction that the premises are located in a remote and rural area and provide services and facilities that substantially cater for tourism, and that as such children and young persons will be permitted access without the requirement for the taking of a meal. The overall capacity of the premises is 276, and members will see the breakdown in the application for the various areas. This development represents an enormous investment on the part of the applicant company, which will undoubtedly draw tourists and visitors into the locality of Angus. They have developed their product into a global brand in recent years, which has served further to enhance Angus as a place on a global map, and as such I would move approval of this application.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? No questions. Mrs. Tom, what stage are we at? I see that with the building standards, you've got comment at the bottom of the report. Can you tell me what? I'm just unsure what stage 1 and stage 2. I think I know what it is, but can you explain the difference between a stage 1 and a stage 2 application, please?
No problem, convener. With a building warrant, you can, to start works quickly, you can actually break it down into various stages. In this case, this will probably be a 2-stage application. So stage 1 has been approved, and that's for all work, but excluding the curtain walling, basically just the outside cladding. So another application is yet to be received to include the curtain walling. So they're okay to start the works, but they haven't got permission to complete them yet.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Thank you, Mr. Convener. Just following on from Ms. Tom, there is just a reminder to the applicant, I'm sure they're perfectly aware, but this is a provisional application. Even if the board are minded to grant today, it does not permit the sale of alcohol until a confirmation is later submitted. And my understanding that cannot be done until the building warrant is granted. So Section 50 certificate. So just a reminder that alcohol will not be permitted to be sold until the confirmation of the provisional licence is submitted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Durno?
Thanks. Daniel's kind of partly asked my question regarding the building warrant. I do have concerns about the road to this venue because it's not a particularly great road, and if we're going to have a lot of people going up that road, I think maybe roads need to be involved in this application, because we have had problems in this area with the fields, with flooding, etc. And I would like to find out what the roads department are saying about the coming up to the building one. I know that'll be a different committee, but that's just the only concern that I have about the application. Okay, thank you.
Okay, maybe Councillor Durno, you want to contact roads, because I don't think that would actually form part of what we're dealing with today, but I accept your concerns, absolutely. Councillor Boyd?
Yes, I feel since I had made comment on the last one and being another visitor centre, I feel I should make both these the same. Having been passing the jam factory on Friday, I was up in Lunan Bay on Saturday walking the dog, and I'm sure I passed this building, at least I'd like to think it was, because it looked very attractive from the outside. And but so again, wishing the same success to this, again promoting Angus. The staycations that we're going to see from next summer will be so much, will even be better than they were this year. And we as the Angus Tourist Board, I know that's not the right word, should do our utmost to help promote all these ones to make sure that Angus is a destination to come and see all these distilleries, along with everything else that Angus has to offer. Thank you.
Yes, I agree, Councillor Boyd. Absolutely, it's excellent to see something new going. Councillor Fairweather and then Councillor Nicholl.
Thanks, convener. Just to say, I think this is absolutely terrific. I wish them well, and I'll be moving to grant.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Nicholl.
In my opinion, I don't see the point in any restrictions on the tourist tasting. I can't see why somebody can't turn up and then discover that they can actually have a taste of I think it's a restriction that's not really warranted.
Mr. Coleman or Mrs. Kimmett, do you want to comment on that? Because it's out with our policy, isn't it? But it's something we've got.
Yes, convener. It's entirely a matter for the board, and it's entirely a matter for the applicant to tell you what they require in terms of their operating plan. A condition has been recommended is because it is out with board policy, which doesn't mean that you have to automatically reject it, but you do need to look at ways to promote the licensing objectives within that. But it is entirely a matter for the board what they consider to be a reasonable restriction in terms of conditions.
Okay, I notice in the bottom of the bold print that the applicant has agreed that if we put that condition on anyway, but can I ask either Ms. McEwen or Mr. Stirling, if obviously the applicant has agreed that it's not going to be a barrier for you doing anything if we put that condition on, is it?
Can I'll let Mr. Stirling speak after myself, convener, but essentially what has been agreed that on sales out with core hours between 9 AM and 11 AM shall be for pre-booked tasting sessions only.
Okay.
So, but I'll let Mr. Stirling add to that, since he's not had an opportunity to speak as yet, and it's his application.
Yeah, thank everyone, and thanks for the kind comments so far. Yes, no, we're perfectly, it's acceptable for us to have that condition on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stirling. Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, convener. I just wanted to say it's really good to see such an ambitious application coming forward that will promote Angus tourism, and they produce really good products. So just wish them all the best of luck and support the application.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's two new ones today, and I think we had something from Dronley, the cider one, the last time. I think it's excellent, especially during this current climate. Councillor Moore.
Yes, thank you, convener. I would have been concerned about noise from the premises, except that having looked on the map, I don't think you could get much more isolated. My only query is that if the condition that on sales between 9 AM and 11 AM shall be for pre-booked tasting sessions only, what is proposed if the person turns up at 9:30, has a pre-booked tasting session and wants to buy a couple of bottles to take home?
Who can answer that, Mr. Coleman or Mrs. Kimmett?
Yeah, but thank you, Mr. Gavina. Well, it's at 9:30 in the morning. Off sales are against the law. The list of Scotland that makes it quite clear. It's between 10 AM and 10 PM. So anything like that, I would view upon very dimly. But I have absolutely no doubt at all that Mr. Sterling and his employees and staff will not be permitting that sort of thing. They would just have to simply wait another half hour until they can buy their off sales. And I'm every confidence that's what would happen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillors Boyd and Councillor Fairweather, your hands are up. Is that from the last time?
Yes, sorry, convener.
That's okay. No, that's okay. Okay, any other comments? Nobody else? Okay, well, look, we've got this quite a complex one. So we've got the application in front of us. Number 2, the core times. Do we agree those?
Agreed.
Okay, with the proviso, and obviously I know Councillor Nichols expressed concern about it, but we've asked the applicant and he's happy to go along with the condition for 9 AM to 11. The seasonal variations, do we agree those?
Agreed.
Agreed.
And the activities?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. And number 5, children and young persons to be permitted, and we've heard Ms McEwen saying the reasons for that. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
And do we agree the capacity at 276?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to move that we grant it then. Is that agreed, members?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, Ms McEwen and Mr Sterling, your application has been granted, but obviously you heard from Mrs Tom and Mr Coleman that until the stage 2 certificate has been granted and approved, you cannot sell alcohol in these premises. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, convener, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 5, premises licenses, requests to vary under Licensing Scotland Act 2005. And the first one is the Early Arms in Kirriemuir. Good morning, Dillis. How are you?
Convener, before we proceed, yes, before we proceed, there were 2 videos sent out in relation to this application. I downloaded both of them, but I have not been able to open video A, the first one. I managed to get the second one open, but not the first one.
Okay. Mr Coleman, can you maybe screen share with us these?
Yes, we've looked into this. For some reason, video A is not playing ball at all, even when it's on my computer, and I can't screen share. So I'll just have to describe it. Unfortunately, I think we need to look at ways to avoid videos when we have virtual meetings because it's proving to be rather difficult. But unfortunately, it's just an IT issue we can't overcome on this occasion.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Dillis, you can now speak to your application.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is just in our point. We obviously bought over the property just shy of 6 years ago, and with that it came with the premises license, which in section 5D had an outdoor area, but this was actually never clearly defined in any layout, so therefore we've just put this application in to define the area referred to in section D in the current premises license.
Okay, thank you. Questions from members? No? Comments? No. Well, I know this premises quite well because it's actually next to my office in Kirriemuir, and there's never been any issue with it. Mr Coleman, that's correct, is it? We've read that in the report. There's no issues with these premises?
That's correct, Mr Convener, and having visited the premises, I identified one minor statutory issue which has been rectified. I will be working with Ms Robertson to solve that. And in terms of Area A, since we can't see the video, it's around the back of the premises, and there aren't any buildings that are there beside it are commercial. They're not residential. It's quite far down the lane. It's quite a distance away. So I'm quite confident in terms of noise management. And indeed, this premises has operated occasional licenses during the COVID-19 pandemic, which we've had no issues in terms of noise management, and the standard conditions of outdoor areas will also apply.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I pass it several times daily, so I've never seen any issue with it, and it's always gets a good reputation in Kirriemuir as far as I'm concerned. Okay, members, if there's no other comments, I'm going to move then. We've got the application in front of us, the variation. I'm going to move that we grant it. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, Dallas, that's it done.
Thank you
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Convener, I just want to double check that that's granted with the additional conditions by ECP.
At the bottom, yes, the 4 conditions at the bottom, yes. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Thank you. Okay, the next one is Buzz Bingo in the High Street in Arbroath.
Yes, good morning, Your Honours. My name is Archie McIver. I appear in this matter on behalf of the principal solicitors involved.
Good morning, Mr. McIver. It's nice to see you again as well. So we've while since you've been here, I think.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay, you can fire ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Honours. This is one of these slightly unusual applications in that we have to come to the Liquor Licensing Board to ask for something that's actually nothing to do with the sale of alcohol. The premises, as you know, operate as a bingo hall in Arbroath, and what they're seeking here is the ability to provide teas, coffees, hot or cold snacks out with the core licensed hours. They have and are intending to restart when COVID allows their breakfast bingo sessions, which normally kick off around about 10 o'clock in the morning, which is clearly prior to the start of the licensing hours. And it's really to allow them to give their patrons a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a hot roll, whatever the case may be, just as a preamble to the session starting. I would hope you'd find no difficulty with the application, Your Honours, and I'd invite you to grant.
Thank you very much, Mr. McIver. It's just another business looking forward, isn't it? And
absolutely.
I think it's excellent, especially in this. It's some good news stories within these reports. Councillor Durno.
Yeah, I just want to say I welcome this because we're sort of losing quite a lot of businesses on the high street, and we really don't want to lose the bingo. And the fact that you're going to be doing some snacks as well, I think it's a great benefit for some people, because at the moment there's nothing open. When you get open again, it'll be ideal, as long as you're not selling anything that's too fattening.
Oh, that means you.
I think in lockdown, Your Honours, we're all very conscious of that. So.
Exactly. So if you go for some healthy stuff, then I'll come down with my bingo. Okay.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Durno. Any other comments? Okay, well, this is straightforward for me. I'm just going to move that we grant. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McIver. That has been granted.
Thank you very much indeed, Your Honours.
Thank you. Okay, members, the next one is Hospital Field House, another good news story for Arbroath. Is there anyone from Hospital Field?
I'm going to speak. My name is Lucy Byers. I'm director here. Hello, everybody. And then Scott Byrne is also here. So if there are questions and I can't answer, then we have to go to Scott. So first of all, it was very good to see Janet Hood here this morning, because of course we've sought her advice and she's given us very excellent advice at this time of great change within the organisation. So the Trust has operated a licence very successfully, quite in relation to quite a limited area of the site for very many years, in relation to the jazz club, which you'll know about. And we've sought alterations to that, limited to that over time. However, because we are now changing very considerably, also our organisational structure has shifted. So we have now the Trust and we have a trading arm. The Trust, of course, has to operate in relation to the objectives of the Constitution. The trading arm is set up entirely to make income in order to support the Trust. So we're asking here to shift the licence into the trading arm. And also to extend that the licence to cover our new operation. So Hospital Field regards itself as becoming an important visitor attraction within Angus,
We are founding members of Angus Tourism Co-op and also Appetite for Angus. So that whole debate around the importance of Angus becoming a tourism hotspot for the future is absolutely something that we are committed to. And our license requests that we can use the site for events and for public events, for exhibitions, for workshops, so that we can build our audience, for us to extend our hire and our hires business, and for residential activity, which brings people from across Scotland, across UK and beyond to Angus. The development of the garden and the garden cafe is really critical. We are on site now. We have planning permission for a much more extensive development, but we're awaiting the Tay City deal bid agreement before we can get into the next phase of development. However, we've raised adequate funding, 1.5 million, in order to deliver the new garden and garden buildings, which will include the cafe and the opening of the fernery. So this, we hope, will become a very place that people will want to visit. And our license will cover the cafe, the sale of alcohol with food, and in relation to events that we might hold in the garden and on the site. We also have a request in there for hosting sales of alcohol as off sales in a small designated area in the cafe, and also during the markets and our Beer and Berries Festival, for example, for allowing others to sell from the site. And that's all from me at this moment, but please do ask questions if I haven't covered anything.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this is, again, another excellent story, and I think there's some of us here. I think Councillor Fairweather and I were certainly there, and other councillors last year. I've only been to Hospitalfield once, and it was the Design Awards. I think what a beautiful spot you've got there. So, you know, I wish you every success with it. And this is another good news story, not just for Arbroath, but for Arbroath. Okay, we have 3 Arbroath members now that wish to speak. Councillor Dunno, your hand was up first.
Yeah, thanks Lucy for your presentation. I really welcome this, and let's hope we can get this horrible COVID to go away and we can enjoy some beautiful days down at Hospitalfield with a nice glass of wine and some treats outside. That would be lovely. So I wish you all the best.
Only very healthy food.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, Councillor Fairweather.
Thank you, convener. Yes, Lucy did a fantastic job at a Tay City's deal committee meeting tonight, selling the project of Hospitalfield House. It is the first project in our Tay City's deal that is actually gone to its full business case. So that is very, very well done. It's certainly something for the future. It is going to be an absolutely stunning attraction for not just Arbroath, but for Angus as well. So I have no problems with this application, and I'll be moving to grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King.
Yes, I just want a couple of clarifications. I'm looking at the plans that have been submitted. I take it that the area that is being applied for at the moment is in the upper plan, because the lower plan covers only the area of the house, and that's the one that says it has the perimeter of the licensed area. Could somebody confirm that it's the whole garden area?
Could I revert to Scott to answer that question, because he prepared the documents?
Yeah, I can help out hopefully. So Hospitalfield has 2 stories. Anyone who's familiar with the function room where Lucy mentioned.
I'm very familiar with the function room, Scott.
I know you are.
3 years ago.
That is exactly that. And so that's the ground, represents the ground floor. Directly above that is the picture gallery, which you'll also know. So the layout plan reflects those 2 stories. The expansion in the garden really refers to the area that Lucy identified as the cafe. And it spills out to the seated area outside the cafe. There is the whole estate has been delineated in the plan to enable us for those infrequent events such as weddings and markets for us to be able to facilitate more easily pop-up bars in those locations for the service of drinks. So I think hopefully that answered your question, Councillor King.
Thank you, Scott. Yes. Well, I know that this has been a long time coming. I think it must have been about 2016, maybe earlier, that a group of us attended Hospital Field, and Lucy was telling us of the great plans for Hospital Field at that time, which was, you know, quite 5-6 years ago. I'm very glad to see that it's all beginning to take part and take place. And as far as the house itself is concerned, well, I've just admitted that my daughter was married in Hospital Field in 2017, and an excellent do it was. And I know we had an occasional license to cover the use of the gardens, but the gardens on a nice summer's day in July was absolutely wonderful. And I wish you all well.
Thank you, Councillor King, and it was a pleasure to host your daughter's wedding as well. So thanks for choosing Hospital Field.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, convener. Yes, I've been to Hospital Field House quite a few times. I think the building is absolutely stunning, and I think we need to be promoting that far more. I don't have a problem with this. I just don't know about what controls there are on noise outside after 9 p.m, because we normally put that on and you've got residential across the road. The other thing I'm intrigued by, and I'm really intrigued by this, all forms of artistic expression, and it brings to mind weird and wonderful things. The mind boggles at it. Can we?
Well, it's an arts organisation at its core, so because we live in this incredibly wonderfully liberal environment of Angus, who understand how important it is to push the envelope in relation to culture. I think that might have even been Janet Hood's words, encouragement.
You're absolutely right. It's Janet Hood expressly put that in, and she did an interpretive dance to accompany those words that we're not going to name.
That does sound like Janet, I have to say.
Yeah, mine does boggle.
Councillor Moore, just on your point, and I'll just ask, and I won't put Mr. Easton on the spot, but obviously there's no concern here that I can see from ECP about noise. So, Mr. Easton, do you want to maybe make a wee assurance comment here?
Yes, we've no history of noise complaints from the site. We consider it to be reasonably isolated from surrounding houses. There are houses, obviously domestic properties across the Westway, which are some 200 metres plus away. There are some houses down the Moneymusk Road area that are reasonably close, but as the application stands, we have no concerns in regard to it. And as I say, there is no history of noise complaints in relation to the property.
We are aware that if on the very, very occasional times that we have some noise, I mean, it's only when there's music that I think that one can hear from that distance, because obviously we are quite isolated. We are in a sort of a bubble of land around us. But when we do anticipate that there's going to be noise, we always leaflet all the houses on our edge to invite them. And we have a very good, I think, ongoing conversation with our neighbours. So that's a very, taking care of that is important value for us.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Easton.
Convener.
Councillor King?
Yes, I just want to come back on a couple of points raised by Councillor Moore. He was questioning all forms of artistic expression. Well, I can assure you that I have appeared in costume in the grounds of Hospital Field House with the Arbor Pageant Society. So there's artistic expression for you. And also, if you were familiar with the area, you would know that it's quite a big area round about this building before you get to any houses. So I think, yes, I think Lucy Byatt and her team have that well under control, and there is no need to be concerned about noise emanating from these premises.
I have no doubt about that. I just wanted to make it clear within the meeting.
Well, yes, I certainly have seen your picture in the press a few times, Councillor King, with your costume on. Councillor Boyd.
Yes, well done to Lucy and Scott here. What a fantastic way this is moving forward. I know only too well how hard it is to look after a listed building and make sure that it can work and preserve these things in Angus. So very well done to you both on that instance for doing that. Don't worry, I won't be setting up in competition, though I've got the next nearest listed building. I won't be setting up in competition with licensing, since I sit on licensing anyway. But I think it's absolutely wonderful. Another visitor centre no, it's not another one. It's an enhanced visitor centre along with the other two there. So my parting comment to the Arbroath councillors who set up all this and saying, how great it is, and quite rightly so, to be promoting your own town. Let's remember that the town funding centre, there are lots of other different areas. You may be doing it yourselves, but Carnoustie led on the situation where they put money into a fund to ensure that an app was related to promote the town. I certainly hope you can find something in use, and therefore we can actually get, maybe within this app for Angus, we can get a circular tour of all our visitor centres as we move forward, because this has just been absolutely excellent for the coastal towns today, from the outskirts of Montrose and Lunan down to the outskirts of Arbroath, and then this. We have to all work together, and so I'm glad to see you're bringing off sales on as well, and hopefully you will be enhancing the off sale distribution with the other two applicants that have been here today. So well done to everyone, and I think this is in the miseries of the late November in 2020 with so much going on. This has been a very positive meeting, and Angus will move forward very well into 2021 with all these things. That'll be ready for moving forward when we come out of COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. That's a very positive comment, and I'm quite sure, because they've had Mrs. Hood on board, I'm quite sure Lucy and Scott have heard about appetite for Angus from Janet. Mr. Coleman, your report's very comprehensive. Do you wish to make any comments?
No further comments, Mr. Convener. I'm quite pleased with the application, and having met the applicant and other members of staff at the premises, I'm looking forward to what they have in store for Angus. And the only thing I would, if the board do wish to pay particular attention to the children, young person conditions, they are quite specific and towards this application. They are a bit different than normal, but I think they're very sensible conditions that the applicants devised themselves. So I would certainly encourage them as well.
Okay, members, we've got the description of the variation in front of us. It's quite complex, and I won't take too long going through it, but we've obviously got the premises layout. Number 2, off sales. Do we agree that?
Agreed.
Number 4, the seasonal variation dates. That's just our usual anyway. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Number 5, the activities. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. And as Mr. Coleman has mentioned, along with Lucy and Scott, they devised these. Number 6, children and young persons. These conditions 6A, B, and C. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Then we move to fully grant this. Is that agreed as well?
Agreed.
Thank you. And excellent. As we've all said, most of the members or every member that's spoken has said, this is a great project for not just Arbroath, but for Angus and its businesses and other things working together. And it's been an excellent meeting today with lots of good news stories, and particularly in the current climate that we're in. So Lucy and Scott, all the best with your project. The board members have agreed your variation, and hopefully once it's completed, some of us will come down and pay you a visit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. That's fantastic, and it's been amazing to receive such great support from Angus Council. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
May I just briefly interrupt the variation? It was the transfer as well. Is that the transfer agreed also? Yeah.
Transfer to hospital field trading.
Convener, that will be dealt with separately under delegated authority.
Thanks for the clarity on that. That's great. Super. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Kimmett. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, members, agenda item number 6 is a review of the bylaws, and I think Mr. Coleman's already touched on these. Those of us that were at, well, we're all at the forum, but Mr. Coleman, do you wish to comment any further?
No, Mr. Convener, I think I've set out the stall quite well.
Yes, you have. You have. Okay, any comments or questions? No. Okay, we have the recommendations in front of us. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. And agenda item number 7, we're asked to note the occasional licenses granted under delegated authority. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Number 8, premises license minor variations under delegated approval. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Number 9, personal licenses under delegated approval. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
And I think that concludes the licensing board. Now, does anybody need 5 minutes before we go on to the Civic, or shall we just carry on?
Give us a minute to get our papers up.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, everybody got their documents up now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, welcome to this meeting of the Civic Licensing Committee. Mrs. Anderson, are there any apologies for absence, please?
There's no apologies, Convener.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? No. Okay. Members, agenda item number 3. We have submitted for approval a correct record the minute of meeting of this committee.
Declaration of interest, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Nicholl. Yes.
Item number 9, the green paper. I am aware of the person. I do not associate with the person. I will be taking part in the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Nicholl. Okay, members, as I said, we're asked to approve as a correct record the minute of meeting of this committee held on the 17th of September. Are they approved?
Agreed.
Thank you. And we're asked to note the licenses under delegated approvals, agenda item number 4. Is that noted? Thank you. And the first item of business is agenda item number 5, the public procession. We have the report in front of us, and it's for all under one banner. And I think there are at least 1 or 2 people here to speak. Mr. Mackay, okay, you may speak to your application.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the invitation today to what is quite an early meeting about this, because the notification is for a procession, as you may well see, on the 3rd of April next year. I just want to start by commenting it's been great to hear so many good news stories for Arbroath and for Angus so far. In the first part of the meeting, the licensing meeting, businesses making preparations for brighter times to come when a greater degree of normality returns. And it's exactly with the same ambition that we're looking at next year. We had a public procession notified to Angus Council for the 4th of April 2020, but due to the particular circumstances at that time in March, several weeks before it, with the UK national lockdown, again at that time coming into the force, it was only right that we postponed that procession, that mass gathering. Now, looking ahead to next year, obviously we are, I think, 4 months away from the proposed date. It is our full intention that this should go ahead, and it must go ahead. Obviously, that's taken into account a whole variety of elements, of variables that can happen and can come to the fore in any given year, not least of all due to COVID. But certainly, looking ahead to next year, it's a full intention that this happens. And as I say, it will be a great news story for Arbroath, for Angus, and it's vitally important for Scotland as well. So I'm happy to take any questions on this. I hope that's enough of an opening summary in support of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Mackay. Councillor King?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. This is almost an identical, if not identical, application that we passed last year. And unfortunately, the march had to be cancelled due to the COVID-19 regulations. I can see no reason why we should not grant this just on the same sort of terms and conditions as we granted the last year's march. And I would so move.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Dunno?
Thanks, Neil, for your presentation. The only thing I'm worried about is the fact that with my age category, we might not be getting vaccinations until April. And of course, obviously, I'd like to take part. So is it, why did you come up with this date again? Was there, and will there be any consideration if we know half the population are not inoculated? We might not be able to take part in the procession until maybe, I don't know, June or something. That's the only worry I have about the application. Thanks.
Yeah, well, if I can come back on that, thanks for your comments. And the first point about the selection of the date, we had the 4th of April 2020 marked because it was the 700th anniversary of the Declaration of Arbroath. And so we postponed all of this year's marches. It wasn't just the one at Arbroath, as you may well know. And so therefore, we've just shifted them all to next year, again, with our full intentions to go ahead with them. I'm not saying that we've already showed a precedent that we will postpone, that we value public health and all of these concerns. So it's not some sort of dogged attitude that these must go ahead no matter what, but it's our full intentions that they do. And I believe that they have to. In terms of your point made about vaccinations, how that's going to affect people's confidence to be able to participate and the safety. I think it's only one element of the jigsaw. It's obviously it seems to be the most obvious solution is vaccination, but for sure there's all sorts of safety measures that we've already been putting in place at small static rallies that we've been having during the pandemic across Scotland. And there's some key issues here. So one of them is an adherence guidance on physical distancing. Another one is ensuring and encouraging people wear face coverings. All of these aspects limit the risk. Encouraging full guidelines on participants maintaining good hand and respiratory hygiene as well is another element to it. And also we've been looking at test and trace. Certainly there is the Scottish Government, the Scottish National Health Service app, which I believe is downloaded and active on the majority of people's phones now in Scotland. That itself needs to be taken into account. And then you add on to that we're going to be able to implement cutting edge test and trace technology next year at our marches. The first one would be Arbroath. So to give an outline of what that may look like, QR codes, which many of us have become familiar with, perhaps for the first time, when entering licensed premises or cafes, and we have to scan in and complete our details with our phone. We're looking at developing that onto high-vis vests, for example. So we could have a lot of these present on volunteers, and the social media updates, the guidelines given before the event would be to find someone at the start, which is wearing one of these highly identifiable vests, scan in, provide your details, and then when you're at the end at the rally site, you simply go and you do the same thing again. And so that bulk of data will definitely be a significant safety check. And all of these things included, including face coverings, physical distancing, good hand and respiratory hygiene, and as you've quite rightly pointed out, the likelihood that a significant number of people will already be vaccinated by the spring. I think that the risk is actually manageable for this to go ahead. And when you can contrast that with the risk of not doing anything about the situation in Scotland, not doing anything about the fact we don't have decision making to properly look after the health of the people, then I think on the balance of risk, it has to go ahead.
Can I just come back? That's great, Neil. It sounds like you've covered all avenues that can possibly, take place. So I'm feeling really more confident about that, and I'll have to go and get a bigger T-shirt ordered, obviously. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dunno. Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Convener. Mr. Mackay, in your presentation, you said that the procession must go ahead. Why? I can appreciate that it would be advantageous to you for it to go ahead, but why must it?
Apologies there for missing the first half of what you said, Councillor Moore. My Zoom link dropped, so I only caught the latter part, but I can respond. I think I got the gist of your point. You were asking why must it go ahead? Why am I saying that? Well, like I said, there's, I certainly regard the UK as a danger to the health of the people of Scotland. Year in, year out, the system, I'm not blaming individuals here or governments, but the economic disparity, the democratic deficit is causing significant harm and death to Scottish people year in, year out. This has been going on for a long time, and it's still going on. COVID has exacerbated this, and we've seen how the inability or the curtailment of ability of the Scottish Government to properly handle this situation. They've been doing the very best, but everything from the furlough package, which point
of order. This is not right. This is not a political forum. Right, this is about an application for a procession. Can we stick to that, please?
Well, I was asked why it must go ahead, and I was given my answer. So unless that is inconducive to what you believe, then it's perfectly acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, going on from that.
Yeah, it was points actually raised by. Oh, sorry, Councillor Moore, do you want to finish something else off there first?
I've got a couple of other questions.
Yeah. Go first, and I'll pick up.
Right. In section 3 of your application, it says, at the end of the march, what are your arrangements for getting marchers to go home? And your answer is, once the rally is complete, those attending will be invited to leave. Now, you're inviting, you say, 20,000 people, which is nearly double the population of Arbroath, to come into the town. What arrangements are you making to ensure that they leave safely without any negative impact on the residents of Arbroath?
Councillor Moore, just before Mr Mackay answers that, there's actually a comment from Police Scotland on the report that the organisers must submit a traffic management plan to the satisfaction of both the council officers and the police, and they also must ensure that temporary traffic regulation order is in place. So I think that covers some of that, but Mr Mackay, you maybe have more to add.
Yeah, I mean, I take those comments from Police Scotland on board and look forward to further meetings to exactly clarify what is meant by that and proceed. In terms of how we get people to leave the rally at the end, most people act of their own volition and leave pretty much. I'd say that the biggest percentage of those who touch down, you could say, at the rally point of any of the marches that we've ever carried out, the public processions, they leave straight away. So you've got maybe 50% of the people that arrived that were only there to do the procession, and they leave straight away. And then you've got a ever diminishing crowd that is at the rally. Now, for sure, we do want to contain some people there because our intention is to have speakers, entertainment, and there will be some community stalls, perhaps some catering, obviously to be discussed with yourselves. But the point is, we do obviously wish to contain a presence at the dispersal point stroke rally site. But most, absolutely, our intention is to manage that safely, to continue to work with Police Scotland if any issues arise on the day. We've got a very adept and experienced steward team, who comprise of many professional or ex-professional security operatives, also police. So there's a really big team there, and we will make sure, especially in the current climate and looking forward to March, which, let's face it, we're still going to be living through a lot of this, that we have to make sure that we attend to that as well and safely as possible. And that will mean instructions, guidance coming from the PA system. That will mean stewards going around and if we need to limit the amount of time. All of this is in our hands, and all of this is very well manageable, and we've got a track record of doing this. To highlight that as well, please.
Convener, may I also speak? My name's Andrew Wilson. I'm also an organiser with All Under One Banner.
Yes, is it relevant to Councillor Moore's question?
Yes, it is directly.
Okay, thank you.
There are perhaps two aspects to the question, also as it's reflected in section 3 of the report. There's the question of how do you get people to leave? How do you ask them to leave? And the question of what is the mode of their leaving, which I think is more of what Councillor Moore was asking. He was asking what are the means by which people leave. In the way in which All Under One Banner operates, we cooperate very closely with the local authorities' roads department. We cooperate very closely with Police Scotland, and in particular we cooperate very closely with ScotRail and Scottish CityLink. So we address public transport, and we also address private. So we address public transport. We also address private transport by working with the local authority and with Police Scotland.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Councillor Moore, did you say you had another question?
Yeah, I do. I'll let the one that we've just had ride. Also in section 3, it states, have you assessed what other priorities there may be in the area on the day of the march? And the answer to that is yes. Would you like to expand?
Neil, may I, as I wrote that answer, may I answer?
Yes, please, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. We carried out, we operate, All Under One Banner works closely with local political organisations and local politicians. And so we made quick inquiries as to whether there was any awareness of anything else happening on that date in Arbroath. We also had a quick online search as to see whether there were apparently any other items that were arranged for that date. And so at this stage, and the point has been made at the beginning of this discussion, that we are several months in advance of that date. At this stage, we have carried out what might be described a desktop survey and have found no information relating to other events in Arbroath on that day.
And you have checked with the Arbroath 2020 celebrations, which have also been postponed for a year.
Yes, we have not yet contacted them directly. However, the planning and implementation of the event that was intended to take place in 2020, we had begun to cooperate with all of those who were organising events in Arbroath on the same day, and so we have a track record of beginning that discussion, and certainly for the event in 2021, we would certainly be operating in coordination with them.
Thank you.
Councillor Boyd.
I have a question first for Neil, and then I want to bring on that might be a supplementary, and then I'll go into some comments. Neil, why didn't you just go for April 2022?
Well, the answer would be, and it's not political, it's factual as far as I see it, and all of that's a different point. But the point is, the answer to it is, why should we delay the independence of Scotland happening? And do you have a good answer to that?
Yes, I do. It's called COVID, and it's called public health, and it's called looking after, and it's looking after people. I agree with you, Neil. I agree with your passion, but I do not think that we will be out of this by April next year. I think we'll be out of it by, I certainly hope so, April. And there's something I'm passionate. I don't need to go into anything, but we've already said, look, we were meant to do something in April. Group of my friends, something in April last year. We'll cancel it to April next year. We've just got to be realistic, in my view, and that's what we've done. Is because it was a public thing that we were all going to be doing. We were really keeping ourselves in the spirit that we want to have, by saying, no, let's go for April 2022. We're not going to waste every time. It gives you all the time on earth to organise it all. But back to what Councillor Durno said, keeping people safe. You're not going to win your argument by in my view, you're not going to do that by actually causing anything that would cause any form of safety issues to that. You're putting in so much organisation into it. Why not just go for April 2022? You get your date in your diary now. You're in before anyone else. That's why I was asking why you didn't go for it.
Yeah, I appreciate your points, and I've already outlined the safety measures and a whole host of variables that basically make this the safety of this manageable. It's safe enough to do this, more than safe enough, considering the points I've outlined, and it's our full intentions to go ahead with this.
Can I just say something, gentlemen? If we approve this today, and the Scottish Government come along with different regulations for mass gatherings like that, that will overrule any decision.
Anyway,
well, we will have to wait and see what comes from the Scottish Government. Freedom, the right to freedom of assembly, and certainly the need to push for independence, as far as I see it, is absolutely imperative.
Any other questions, Councillor Boyd?
No, that was it. You've hit it right on the nail. This could actually be taken from under your feet anyway by the Scottish Government, and the Scottish Government are making it a #1 priority, that it's health over anything else.
That is in our report. The COVID condition is there. It's very well detailed. Councillor Fairweather?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that point was brought up, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Whether this goes ahead now, it will come down to what restrictions are in place, if any, on that particular date. So if there are restrictions in, it won't happen. If there are no restrictions in, and they say there can be an amount of people at any one time, it will happen. Maybe not with 20,000 people. However, I tend to agree with Councillor King. We did agree this last year. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't agree it for next year. So I'll be happy to second Councillor King.
Thank you, Councillor Fairweather. Councillor Nicholl?
Yeah, thank you, convener. 3rd April, it's a bit close. Many shows and public events in Scotland through to August next year have already been cancelled. I have concerns about the health issues in so many people from all over Scotland meeting. Thank you.
If I may answer, is that okay?
Yes, but I think we've heard it about 3 times already.
Yes. Neil, sorry, convener, may I speak briefly, and I'll make a slightly different point. I'm not going to rehash something that's been said already.
Okay, thank you. Yes, carry on.
We take very close attention. You can probably see sitting on my desk is the current set of the regulations. That's because we pay very close attention to the regulations, and we have complied with them all year, and that approach is not changing. So your point, convener, regarding the regulations is absolutely correct, and we're very much aware of that.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I would just like to make the additional point of what is safe. Absolute safety is impossible, and I feel that what is getting talked about is, to a degree, absolute safety. And
you got muted.
I don't think it's appropriate.
Councillor Whiteside?
Thanks, convener. Probably saying much of what Councillor Fairweather just said, just reminding everybody that this has been approved in principle, very similar application in the previous year. I think the applicants are wise to pre-plan in the hope that the conditions will be such that we can go ahead. Fingers crossed that the situation is looking a lot brighter by the time we get to April. And like you say, there is a COVID condition in the application. So let's just pass this and keep our fingers crossed. If there's any conditions imposed by the government, that's out of our hands.
Exactly, and that was my point, and it's quite detailed and clear in the report. Councillor King, and then Mrs. Kimmett.
Yes, thank you, convener. I've listened to some of the questions, and quite honestly, some of them show a remarkable lack of knowledge about Scottish history and why this date is particularly significant. We missed the 700th anniversary because we were all in lockdown. Otherwise, this march would have taken place last year. I am very happy that All Under One Banner are thinking ahead to April 2021 in the hope that the COVID restrictions will be such that this march will be able to take place. I'm hoping that everybody just doesn't disappear after the march. 20,000 people is slightly less than the population of Arbroath, but even though only a quarter of them stay and visit our pubs and restaurants and various other places in the town, that will be a big injection into the economy of Arbroath on that day. The matter of Arbroath 2020 and when they might be marching has been raised. Well, last year, All Under One Banner was marching on the Saturday, and Arbroath 2020 was marching on the Sunday. I'm quite sure that similar arrangements would be coming forward, but there is absolutely no reason why Arbroath 2020 should not now become Arbroath 2021 and celebrate the 701st anniversary of the signing of independence on the actual date of the 6th of April. I mentioned earlier, and I don't know whether Mr. Mackay was in the meeting at that time, that for many years I have been a member of the Arbroath Abbey Pageant Society. And for the past 10, 15 years, we have always put on a presentation at the Abbey at 13:20 hours on the 6th of April, just to celebrate the ongoing march of the years of celebration of the signing of the date of independence. I see absolutely no reason why this should not go ahead. And actually, I'm very happy to see that All Under One Banner are at least thinking ahead. They know perfectly well that if there's a resurgence of COVID-19 in April, their march will be cancelled, as it was last year. And we're all hoping that that's not going to happen. But putting it off to 2022 is absolutely pointless. I will not be taking part in this march because I'm not able to walk that far these days. But I will be in the town on that day, and I'm quite sure a number of my colleagues will be taking part in the march. And I think that we should just grant this, and we shouldn't have needed to spend half an hour discussing it.
Well, that's your opinion, Councillor King. Every member's entitled to have their say. Mrs. Kimmett.
It's just a reminder to the committee that this is a notification rather than an application, so the decision isn't to grant it, it's to decide whether to impose an order on it, either imposing conditions or prohibiting the march. So it's just a reminder that it is a notification rather than an application. Within the report, there are at least 3 conditions recommended within that report, 2 of which are being recommended by Police Scotland, so it may be that the committee want to hear briefly from them as well.
Okay. Constable Jameson, if you're on the call, do you wish to comment?
Yeah, good morning. It's Jamie Allen, Inspector for event planning. Yeah, there's actually no objection in terms of having this. We were prepared for it last year. What we did have was a list of conditions last year, just specifying the date and time, the actual route it was taking, and then about keeping it moving forward, and the use of organisers and marshals assisting police. Although that's not mentioned on that, and that's probably I'll apologise for that. The conditions we had last year, it was just to supplement them with this, and that we have a couple of extra things added on, but we don't have an issue with actually having the march. And the dialogue we had leading up to the march before it was cancelled was always very positive. And I am confident in Mr. Mackay in working with us. It was more just about stipulating conditions that ensure that it's a certain time and date that it's happening, and that the stewards are involved. that we have no vehicles at it as well, which we said in the application, but was just enshrining that really. And that's really it from us.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Okay, members, then on that basis, we've got the report. I'm going to move that we make an order in respect of the notice and impose the conditions that we've got, the 2 comments from Police Scotland and also the COVID-19 condition on the back of that. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, Mr. Mackay and Mr. Wilson, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, agenda item number 6. The response to call for views from the Finance and Constitution Committee of the Scottish Parliament travelling fun fairs. We have the recommendations in front of us, and it's recommended that we submit a response to the call for views and agree the terms of the proposed draft response as detailed in Appendix 1 to this report, subject to any amendments considered necessary by the committee. Councillor King.
Yes, I'm very concerned that once again, from external places, we get a recommendation of a fee which is inadequate to cover our costs. And I think this is something that we've got to emphasise very, very heavily to the Scottish Government, that we know what our costs are in terms of dealing with these things, and we want to charge fees sufficient to cover our costs, because it is Scottish Government recommendations that a licensing section should not be subsidised by the ratepayers. It should stand alone in terms of raising enough revenue from fees to cover its costs.
I agree wholeheartedly with you, Councillor King, and I think that will have been Mrs. Kimmett. Have you got that noted? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Moore?
Yes, thank you, Convener. I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor King on the matter of fees. The only other thing that I have any concern about is what are the costs of clearing up afterwards, and who is expected to bear those?
Mrs. Kimmett, do you have, or Mr. Coleman, maybe?
Is the question in relation to what's proposed in the bill?
Yeah, what I'm looking at is we are talking about the fee for the
fee being charged is in relation to the application for processing it.
But should we not be allowing for the cost of having to clean up after them if it is a significant figure in the charge?
Just to be clear, the fee is what's proposed in the bill, that isn't set by us. That the concern about the fees being noted, and I've noted that Councillor King has mentioned that this should be strengthened, so I'm happy to pick up that point, but I think what's proposed in the bill is what's proposed in the bill.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Whiteside?
Just a comment really, Convener, thank you. I agree with what Councillor King said. We should be able to cover our costs, but I also think we should be a bit more flexible with our fees. There should be a better sliding scale, because at the moment small communities putting on local events are charged £150 for the use of a public park. So I think that's part of it as well. But I do agree that we should have the flexibility to charge what we need to charge.
Yeah, and I think Mrs. Kimmett's got that noted anyway, to send that back. Councillor Brown?
My question has been answered.
Okay. Councillor King, do your hands up?
Yes, I want to come back in again. Both Councillor Whiteside and Councillor Moore have raised the matter of the operational fee charged by communities for the use of the parks, not the application fee. We are dealing here with the application fee. If there is a matter of a sliding scale for the use of the park, then that's a separate matter for communities, as is the clear-up costs and the responsibility for clear-up. That's an operational matter for communities in terms of the lease of the park. It's a pity there's nobody here from communities that could have given you that answer, but I think you'll find that that's the case.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? No, so we've got the recommendations. Do we agree them with Mrs. Kimmett's got some notes to send back, so that's fine. Is that agreed? Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is a variation of a public entertainment licence, and it's Angus Alive. Mr. Coleman, do you wish to comment on this?
Sorry, I have nothing to comment, Mr. Convener, on this. It was an application for Angus Alive, Orderhood. They want to have a road train, but vehicles were not included in their public entertainment licence. So it is possible to vary an entertainment licence, but we do not have the delegated authority to do that. That's why it's come before committee today.
Well, I think this is quite straightforward. I'm just going to move that we grant the application for variation. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much. And number 8 now is the possible exclusion of public and press. Do we agree?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, John, if